The door slammed like a gunshot in the still Andalusian night, echoing off the whitewashed walls of the old family finca. Vivian's mother's scream, "You're no daughter of mine," hung in the humid air, sharper than the knife she'd just used to slice olives for dinner. At 19, Vivian clutched her backpack, heart pounding as her father's silhouette filled the doorway, his voice a gravelly whisper, "Go. Before God sees what you've become." That was the hook that reeled her into a life adrift, a 19-year-old lesbian cast out from the sun-baked hills of Ronda, Spain, where family honor clung tighter than the summer heat. Vivian Morales had always known she was different, whispers in the church pews, stolen glances at the village girls during fiestas, but confessing her love for Sophia, the baker's daughter, under the ancient bridge had been her undoing. The affair was innocent, shared secrets by the Guadalquivir River, a tentative kiss that tasted of figs and forbidden promise. But in a town where machismo ruled and Catholic guilt was as common as tapas, it was enough to shatter everything. Her parents, Esteban and Maria Morales, pillars of the community, him a stoic olive farmer with calloused hands that had tilled the same soil for generations, her a seamstress whose nimble fingers mended more than cloth, couldn't bear the shame. "We've raised you better," her mother had wept, rosary beads twisting in her fists. Vivian's younger brother, Javier, just 16, had stood silent in the corner, eyes downcast, torn between loyalty and the fear of becoming the family's new outcast. No explanations, no pleas. Just a hastily packed bag and the creak of the iron gate as she stumbled into the darkness, the scent of jasmine mocking her exile. She hitchhiked to Malaga that night, the coastal lights blurring through tears as trucks rumbled past. By dawn, she was on a ferry to Gibraltar, then a cheap flight to London, anywhere but here. But Europe felt too close, too laced with memories of siestas and sangria that now soured in her mouth. A chance encounter at a Heathrow hostel led her across the Atlantic. A backpacker named Tom, an American student with a beat-up van and stories of endless highways, offered her a ride to New York. "America's the land of second chances," he said, clapping her shoulder. "Or at least, that's the sales pitch." New York swallowed her whole. The cacophony of horns and the steam rising from manhole covers were a balm to her fractured soul. She crashed on couches in Brooklyn, waitressed at a dive bar in the East Village where drag queens held court after midnight, their laughter a defiant symphony. It was there, amid the clink of glasses and the haze of cigarette smoke, that she met Gemma. Gemma Riley was everything Vivian wasn't, born and bred in the concrete jungle, a 22-year-old graphic designer with fiery red hair cropped short like a pixie, freckles dusting her nose like cinnamon, and eyes the color of the Hudson on a stormy day, gray-green and unflinching. She slid onto a bar stool one rainy Tuesday, sketching on a napkin while nursing a gin and tonic. "You're staring," Gemma said without looking up, her Brooklyn accent thick as bagels. Vivian flushed, wiping the counter harder. "Habit. Helps me remember faces." Their first conversation stretched till closing time. Gemma talked about her Irish immigrant grandparents who'd fled famine for factory jobs, about the murals she painted on abandoned warehouses to make the city breathe. Vivian, emboldened by cheap tequila, let slip fragments of her story, the bridge in Ronda, the door slamming shut. Gemma didn't flinch. "Family's overrated," she said, lighting a cigarette. "Blood don't mean loyalty. You build your own." They built it together, brick by Brooklyn brownstone. Vivian enrolled in community college, studying literature because words had always been her escape, Poe's melancholy, Woolf's waves of consciousness mirroring her own turbulent heart. Gemma landed freelance gigs designing album covers for indie bands, her studio a chaos of paint-splattered canvases and half-empty coffee mugs. Their apartment on Atlantic Avenue was a shoebox with peeling wallpaper, but it was theirs, fairy lights strung over the fire escape, a windowsill herb garden thriving against the odds. Love bloomed slow and steady, like the cherry blossoms in Prospect Park that first spring. It started with late-night walks along the promenade, hands brushing until one night, under the glow of the Brooklyn Bridge, ironic, that, Gemma pulled her close. "I see you, Viv. All of you." Their kiss was tentative at first, then fierce, a reclamation of what Rhonda had stolen. No grand gestures, just quiet intimacies. Gemma tracing the scar on Vivian's knee from a childhood fall in the olive groves, Vivian braiding Gemma's hair while they binge-watched old Hollywood musicals, dreaming of a life unbound by borders or bigotry. But love, in America, came with its own gauntlets. Vivian's visa teetered on expiration, Gemma's freelance income barely covered rent. They fought, petty squabbles over unwashed dishes escalating into fears of inadequacy. "What if I'm just a rebound from that Sophia girl?" Gemma once hurled, voice cracking. Vivian's retort stung, "And what if you're just slumming it with the immigrant?" But apologies were swift, wrapped in shared blankets on cold mornings, promises whispered like prayers. 3 years in, the universe tested them deeper. Gemma's diagnosis came like a thunderclap: stage 2 breast cancer, aggressive but treatable. Vivian held her in the sterile ER, the fluorescent lights buzzing like angry hornets. "We're fighters," Vivian said, kissing Gemma's knuckles. "You, me, this damn city." Chemo stole Gemma's hair, but not her fire. She shaved it all off, turning the ritual into a punk rock photo shoot. Vivian quit her part-time job to be full-time caregiver, scraping by on savings and Gemma's stubborn optimism. "Cancer's just another asshole landlord," Gemma joked through nausea. "We're evicting it." Remission arrived with the precision of a subway schedule, late, but on time. In the haze of recovery, they decided to expand their family. Not recklessly, but deliberately. Adoption agencies in New York were a labyrinth of paperwork and prying questions. How will 2 women raise a child? Gemma's sketches became mood boards for nurseries. Vivian devoured parenting books, her Spanish lullabies a bridge to the child they hoped for. After 18 months of interviews and home studies, they welcomed Isabella, 6 months old, with caramel skin and eyes like polished onyx, born to a young mother in foster care who chose openness over erasure. Isabella was their miracle, a tiny tempest who cooed at Gemma's finger puppets and gripped Vivian's necklace like a talisman. Motherhood reshaped them, sleepless nights forged into unbreakable bonds, first steps celebrated with rooftop picnics under starless city skies. Vivian, now 28, had graduated with a degree in creative writing, publishing short stories in literary mags about exiled hearts finding harbor. Gemma's designs graced billboards, her red hair grown back in defiant curls. They married in a civil ceremony at City Hall, jeans and vows exchanged before a judge who rolled his eyes at the non-traditional label. "Love's love," he muttered, stamping the certificate. "Get out of my courtroom." Yet, beneath the joy, a shadow lingered. Vivian's letters to Rhonda went unanswered, save for one from Javier. "They're sorry, but pride is a heavy chain." The pull of roots grew insistent as Isabella turned 4, her questions piercing. "Abuela, where's my grandma's house?" Vivian dreamed of the finca's courtyard, the fountains trickle a siren's call. "We go back," she told Gemma one evening, Isabella asleep between them. "Not for them. For us." To close the door. Gemma hesitated, her artist's soul wary of unfinished canvases. What if they slam it again? But love, that stubborn architect, prevailed. They booked flights to Malaga, Isabella clutching a stuffed olive tree, Gemma's whimsical gift. The descent into Spain was a vertigo of emotions, turquoise seas giving way to rugged sierras, the air thick with pine and memory. Rhonda welcomed them with deceptive calm. The town's pueblos blancos gleamed under a merciless July sun, tourists snapping selfies at the Puente Nuevo while locals bartered at the mercado. Vivian's hand trembled as she knocked on the finca's gate, Gemma on one side with their daughter's backpack, Isabella on the other, oblivious, chasing a butterfly. The door creaked open. Esteban stood there, older now, his once broad shoulders stooped, face etched with lines like the terraced hills. Maria hovered behind, her sewing basket abandoned, eyes wide with ghostly recognition. "Vivian." The word was a rasp, half prayer, half curse. "I brought my family," Vivian said, voice steady despite the quake in her chest. She introduced Gemma, my wife, and Isabella, who hid shyly behind her mother's leg. The air thickened, unspoken histories coiling like smoke. Esteban's gaze flicked to Isabella, softening imperceptibly. She has your eyes. But Maria's hand flew to her mouth, crossing herself. A child. With her. The slur hung, invisible but venomous. The dinner that followed was a minefield. Paella simmered on the wood-fired stove, its saffron sent a cruel nostalgia, but conversation skirted the chasm. Javier, now 29 and married with a son of his own, arrived late, embracing Vivian fiercely. You look good, Hermana. Like you conquered the world. His wife, Carla, cooed over Isabella, but the elder's silence screamed. It cracked after the plates were cleared, wine loosening tongues. We prayed for you, Maria said, voice brittle. Every night, novenas for your soul. Esteban nodded, gripping his glass. The village talked. Shame like that. It kills slower than a bullet. Vivian's retort was measured, honed by years of therapy sessions in Brooklyn basements. Shame. You killed me that night. Kicked me to the curb like trash. Isabella stirred from her nap on a woven rug, drawn by the rising voices. Gemma reached for her, but Vivian pressed on. This is my life. Gemma saved me. Isabella is our light. And I came back, not to beg, but to show you what you almost destroyed. The room erupted. Maria wept, accusations flying, sin. Abomination. Esteban rose, face thunderous. We gave you everything, roof, food, God. And you repay with this. Perversion. Gemma shielded Isabella, her whisper fierce, we're leaving. Now. But Vivian stood firm. No. This ends tonight. In the melee, betrayals surfaced like buried roots. Javier confessed he'd written letters pleading her case, only for Esteban to burn them. He wanted to fetch you once, after your abuela died, Maria admitted through sobs. But I said no. Fear. It poisons. Gemma, ever the mediator, suggested a walk, but the storm broke fully when Esteban grabbed Vivian's arm, not violently, but with desperate grip. Stay. Just. Stay away from the town. For appearances. That was the fracture. Vivian wrenched free, tears hot. Appearances. I've spent years building a real life, while you polished your facade. She stormed out, Gemma and Isabella trailing, the little girl clutching her toy olive tree like a shield. They didn't go far. The finca's courtyard fountain burbled mockingly as Vivian collapsed on the stone bench, sobs racking her. Gemma knelt, Isabella in her lap. We tried, Gemma murmured, stroking Vivian's hair. That's more than they deserve. But dawn brought a fragile truce. Javier appeared at the guest house in where they'd fled, eyes red-rimmed. Papa couldn't sleep. He wants to talk. Alone. Vivian went, heart-armored, leaving Gemma to distract Isabella with market sweets. Esteban waited in the olive grove, dawn's light gilding the leaves silver. I was wrong, he said, voice cracking like dry earth. No preamble, no defense, just raw confession. When you left, Maria fell apart. I worked double to keep the finca, but the real harvest withered. You. He pulled a faded photo from his pocket, teenage Vivian at her quinceanera, radiant in white lace. I burned your letters too. Cowardice. But seeing that Nina, Isabella, she's you, all fire and grace. Forgive me. Not for me. For her. Vivian's walls trembled. Forgiveness isn't a switch, Papa. It's soil, tended slow. They walked the rows, Esteban sharing stories of his own youth, a forbidden crush on a boy in Franco's shadow, buried deep under duty. Spain changed, but I didn't. America. It made you brave. Back at the finca, Maria waited with Isabella, flour-dusted hands offering fresh biscoco. Grandbaby, she whispered, the word a bridge. Gemma watched from the doorway, her smile tentative, a quiet victory. The days blurred into tentative healing. Family meals were questions tiptoed, Gemma's art, Isabella's love for paella. Outings to the bullring, defunct now, a monument to bloodless progress, where Vivian and Gemma held hands openly, Esteban's averted eyes softening to acceptance. Javier's son, little Mateo, chased Isabella through the vines, their laughter a balm. Yet drama simmered. The village whispered, old neighbors crossing streets, a priest's pointed sermon on prodigal daughters. Gemma, homesick for Brooklyn's anonymity, confided one night by the river, "This feels like walking on glass. Beautiful, but sharp." Vivian pulled her close, the water's rush echoing their pulse. Glass shatters or becomes mosaic. We're the artists here. The climax crested on Isabella's 7th birthday. No, wait, she'd just turned 6 on the flight over, but time and Rhonda stretched like taffy. They planned a simple fiesta, lanterns in the courtyard, guitar strums from Javier. But Maria, in a moment of reclaimed faith, invited the parish, unwittingly unleashing the storm. Father Ruiz arrived, Bible in hand, his face a mask of pious concern. Maria speaks of reconciliation, but with what? This arrangement. His gaze raked Gemma, then Vivian, venom veiled in scripture. Esteban, emboldened, rose. "My home, my rules, Padre. And my daughter is welcome, as is her wife." The room hushed, Maria nodding fiercely, her rosary now a talisman of alliance. Ruiz left in a huff, but the damage rippled. Gossip swelled, a neighbor slashed the finca's tires in petty spite. Gemma, pushed to the brink, packed their bags. "We came for closure, Viv. Not a war." Isabella, sensing the fracture, clung to Vivian. "Are we trash now, Mama?" That word, trash, ignited the final confrontation. Vivian marched to the family kitchen, Esteban and Maria cornered. "You threw me away once. Won't watch you poison her." Tears flowed, accusations unearthed, Maria's own hidden youth, loving a woman in secret before Esteban's steady hand. "I chose safety over soul," she confessed. "Don't let my fear steal yours." In the raw unraveling, Gemma faltered, not betrayal, but vulnerability. "I pushed for this trip to prove something," she admitted later, under starlit eaves. "That I could be your anchor in the storm. But I'm scared we'll drown." Vivian cupped her face, echoes of their Brooklyn vows. "We don't drown. We swim, together, with our girl." The turning point came unscripted. Isabella, bridging worlds, drew a picture at the Mercado, 2 women holding hands with a child between, olive trees framing a house with an open door. She gifted it to Esteban, who hung it in the finca's hall, a quiet manifesto. As summer waned, they chose hybrid routes, winters in Rhonda, springs in New York. Esteban learned to Skype Isabella's bedtime stories, Maria sent care packages of embroidered dresses. Betrayals mended into deeper bonds, family not by blood alone, but by chosen forgiveness. Vivian's manuscript, born of the journey, found a publisher, a novel of exiled hearts reclaiming home. Gemma illustrated the cover, a bridge spanning river and skyline, lovers hand in hand. Isabella, thriving bilingual, declared at the airport farewell, "Abuela's house has 2 mamas now. And trash goes in the bin, not family." In the end, the slammed door of youth became a threshold wide, proof that love, like Spain's resilient sierras, endures erosion to reveal unyielding beauty. They boarded the plane, 3 souls intertwined, America calling them homeward, but Spain forever etched in their veins.